Your midnight shift is going away on February 1st. This is not a threat. I'm not here to scare people. This is a financial and personnel obligation to the city. We have racked our brains, we have worked together, we have worked with the mayor, we've worked with finance. There's no more money for us. The liability comes if I put people out there unprepared. I'm not putting people out there unprepared. I'm just not willing to do it. You will have a police department. It's just going to be the state police. Where I want to go right now real quick, for the community, for the businesses, for the people on the street that are walking around at night after 11 o'clock, you can still call 911. We will answer the phone. But we are going to transfer that call, and then it'll be determined how that call will be handled. I can't tell you where the state police are going to be. The three that are on the road and the one committed to 91, I can't tell you where they're going to be. They're not going to be patrolling Greenfield. They have a lot of area. And it's not personal. It's just the way it is. It's not that many out there. You call the police department, 911, we will still transfer to the fire department. You'll still have full fire services. We're not cutting dispatch out, regardless of what we do. If you come to our police department after 11 o'clock, the doors will be locked. Our outside vestibule will be open, and it'll be warm in there in case you need to drop off a baby, because we are a drop-off center. We'll be there in case you're having a heart attack, and we'll call somebody to come to the front door for you. We'll be there if you're involved in a domestic and you need a safe haven. You can stand in our lobby, and we'll get somebody there as fast as we can for you. We'll have cameras on. They'll be recording. We will do this for you because we have to, but I can't tell you where they're coming from. Again, financially, I don't have the money to continue. We don't have.
I wondered, how do you think this will make the people in Greenfield feel safe?
With all due respect, no. What do you think I'm doing here, Counselor? I'm telling you right now, they're not going to be safe. I'm telling you right now.
The plan. Full staffing for the bulk of the overnight shift will begin March 1st. And let me repeat that again. Full staffing for the bulk of the overnight shift will begin March 1st, 2023. And remain in place temporarily through June 30th of 2023.
Mayor, let's try to figure out, excuse me, what this is. Doorbelling.
So,
Something keeps, I think the network's dropping.
and I don't see DoorDash delivering us dinner tonight, so.
I apologize.
Yes, we'll keep going.
We're not sure where that tone is coming from.
The agreement struck with the police collective bargaining units changes staffing for patrol sergeants and patrol officers to 2 10-hour shifts, 4 days on, 4 days off. The first shift will operate from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. The second shift will operate from 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. From 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., there will be no coverage by the Greenfield Police Department. We have notified the state police to cover 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. as needed. Those hours are generally slower or have fewer calls. With the understanding that this is a temporary fix for the time period that I mentioned, which is March 1st to June 30th, the Greenfield officers have agreed to waive certain union rights around overtime and staff and shift bidding. Officers on the first and second shift will receive $300 per week per officer from March 1 to June 30th for the inconvenience of the change in work hours. This will save significantly on overtime, which we can't really afford at this point with our budget anyway, and will allow us to fill those hours of the overnight shift. So basically all but the 4 hours from 3 to 7 are going to be covered as opposed to no hours, which was the situation last week. Let's be clear about that agreement on the $300 per week. that cost does not include Chief Haig or Deputy Chief Gordon. They are administrators, and they do not answer calls except in extreme emergencies. With the COPS grant, we will be able to bring on 2 new officers in the early spring and a 3rd officer in June. Additionally, I have committed ARPA money to assist with some of the costs of providing this coverage. So in closing, we look forward to continuing to work with you to come up with a budget for the next fiscal year that restores the normal operations of the Greenfield Police Department and the protection of the citizens that we all serve.
Things like that. Is there going to be any part of this plan that could cover those kind of emergency but non-life-threatening kind of things? I.e., I don't know, we had some water main breaks last year. Obviously, police were showing up to those probably first in some response by getting a call from somebody, and then, you know, then obviously DPW gets involved and things like that. Or if there's lines down, I know that sometimes you have to have somebody show up for that kind of thing. Is there any kind of staffing idea that could do that? Because I know you had said before that, you know, the reason why you don't want to send, you know, only 2 people on a shift is for their safety, for responding to calls like domestic violence calls or, you know, confrontations. But as far as, I don't know, even having 1 or 2 folks around for something like that.
The easy answer is if we're there, we have a duty to act.
Yep.
Period. It doesn't matter if it's a line down or domestic. So if someone's there, we have to do it. The state police are going to be that primary from 3 to 7. We've had multiple conversations, despite what the recorder said, that we had talks before the meetings. We had talks after the meetings. I had a talk today. I have a 10 o'clock meeting tomorrow. While there is no such thing right now as a formal request. I'm not putting anything in writing. They are the primary. They have to by law. But we are speaking with them to say, during those hours, if you happen to have some more people, that would be great. And this is the time to ask them with their structure. But that doesn't mean that I have any control over the state police. Right. But they are aware of everything that's going on here. They've been watching these meetings. Someone has been sitting on Zoom watching this meeting, last meeting. And again, we're talking again tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. We are hoping that this is a very temporary situation. If we can get more bodies in our building, I'm hoping we can at some point have a different plan before the 30th of June.
Yeah.
To answer your question, ooh, that was a loud mic, I'm sorry. I wanted to answer the question about emergencies or unforeseen things. You said like wires down, things like that. Those are already things that when they happen, if we have to call in extra people, then it hits overtime, that could still happen. Those are also things that have always been unforeseen in budgets, and we just have to deal with it when it happens. Okay. You know?
If we need to, if we need to, we're going to hold people. We're not going to just, 3 a.m. if there's a emergency happening, we're not going home. I mean, we're going to still be there to finish it out.
Of course.
After 3 o'clock, if the details assignments that was brought up last week, most of the people you see out there on the details that are out there aren't actual police officers. They're retired or they work for other agencies. We'll still have the ability for that. That's a different program. That's a different situation. A lot of lines and trees down now, and I'm sure the fire chiefs here can answer it. A lot of them we can't even get to be honest with you. A storm, we don't have that ability. But if we have something, which we've had, where we've had the flooding and everything else, we'll bring people in on overtime. I'm not guaranteeing how much we have. But we're not just going to ignore it. I mean, if we're going to have certain situations, because again, we're still on call for detective work too. Right. People pass away, unfortunately, at the early hours of the morning. State police aren't going to handle those things for us. So we're still going to be handling those things. And do I want them going by themselves at that hour in the morning, depending on what it is? Absolutely not. So we'll probably be calling in our own people for overtime. This is not a fix-all elimination of all overtime. Right. Also, if we need to call people in early for that 4-hour block, we have the ability to do that more Monday through Friday because of administrative people. The supervisors union is part of this as well, and they're giving up, basically working out a grade, right? So they're going to be answering calls as well. So if we have to call in people, we will do that, and we will hold them over. And if there's an emergency, we will do that. And if the state police come and it's something that they need assistance with because it's going to be tied up and they're going to have to take off, then we're going to have to figure out calling in somebody on overtime.
Right.
Those are things we're going to have to figure out. They're not going to be gone away. It's just primary coverage and patrol from those hours, as it stands, primary, won't be there. The state police will be primary, but if we have to come in, we will. We're not going to ignore things.
I appreciate the answer, and I think that that's a more clear representation of what can happen during the times we don't have a shift, rather than the idea of it being, blanketly, you're not gonna have anybody there. And nobody's gonna respond to anything unless it's life or death, because that was kind of what we were given before. So I'm glad that that's a better,
Counselor Toronzo, that's the question of the night so far. That gap that you just identified, and the chief gave us the answer we've been looking for, since I sat with him a week ago, and it was exactly that. I finally heard what I wanted to hear. If there was an emergency, our people would not just go home. You asked that question. I think that question alone shows that we're not going to have, if there's a true emergency in our community, overtime is still available. And the detective part that the chief just explained.
right.
If someone passes away at 4 a.m, it's going to be our detective that goes there, and that'll just happen. So thank you for asking that, and Chief, thanks for that explanation, because I think that's one of the questions I was most concerned about.
Right.